All right, we're going to continue our talk about sources, outside sources, and how to incorporate them effectively into a college level essay. We talked about why in the last video. So now we're going to talk about how do you actually do it. First, obviously, you have to identify the source that you're going to use. Sometimes that's your job, and teachers have led you to a process of finding sources. Sometimes teachers tell you what source to use. Sometimes professors have kinds of sources that are okay and kind of sources that are not okay. But however, the particular professor and the particular discipline or subject, what those rules are, you got to identify a source. And so you want to know what are acceptable sources. Ask about acceptable sources when you're writing college level essays. In our class, I'm going to help you pick one. That's why you're sending me the essay, and I will suggest a source for you to use. And that's how we're going to identify appropriate sources in our work together. For our work, we're just going to be satisfied with incorporating one source, one outside source. So a source can be a text, it could be a reading, an essay, an article, a research paper. Again, that depends upon the field that you're in, the writing that you're doing, and the particular challenge that faces you. What conversation does the professor want you to be a part of with your writing? Second job is to choose quotes from that source. And, so obviously we have to read the source. Many of you are really good at marking up stuff that you think is important, but now what we're looking for, we're not just looking for things that are important. Now we're looking for quotes in the article that connect with what we've said in our essay, in the draft of our essay. So if I've said, here's an example. So it's not just good stuff, it's good stuff that also relates to what I care about, what my writing's talking about, what my priorities and concerns are. So we're looking for quotes, good quotes, and then quotes that connect to what our ideas are. So, I use the term hot spots. When I'm reading, I'm always looking for things that pop out, like strong sentences, cool ideas. Sometimes I get them right away. Sometimes I go, oh, that's cool. It's hard. I have to come back and think about that. That's a cool hot spot. That's a neat piece that is either really useful to me, I really agree with, or maybe it's just hard. I have to come back and think about it more. Another thing that often we quote are if something has key terms that are useful, if the article uses a word or a label or a concept term that's really useful. Oh, that's what it's called. I can quote that key term and add it, steal it, incorporate it into my essay. Sorry about the weird lighting. It's almost the solstice. I'll do the best I can. So look for hot spots, look for key terms. You're looking for chunks that are about 3 sentences or 4 sentences long, not too long, and not just a word. 2 sentences, 3 sentences, 4 sentences is the good size of a quote. And very often, just as a heads up, very often these really good statements show up at the end of an essay. So after you've read through an article, after you've read through your source, after you've read through the document that you're going to be quoting, sure, read the whole thing, but then maybe go back, look especially at the end. Sometimes they're at the beginning, sometimes at the end, sometimes they're right in the middle. But, there are a lot of people try to put good stuff near the end of their essays. So that's one place to keep your eyes open for where am I going to find the quote that's going to be really useful for me. Okay, so those are the first steps. You got to identify the source you're going to use. And next, you've got to read that source several times looking for really good quotes to use. So the next thing I want to tell you is the next trick. And it's not the only way of incorporating quotes, but it's a really useful one. and you can practice it, and you can test it, and you can look for it. And so I think it's a helpful step by step. I'm really not loving this weird light, but bear with me. I'll do the best we can. So this trick, this technique is called IIET. IIET. And these words, these letters stand for 4 things that have to be done to successfully, smoothly, effectively use a quote in a college level essay. So you want to introduce the quote. That's the first I. You have to introduce the quote. You have to incorporate the quote. Include it, if you want to say. Let me use the word. You have to include the quote in your essay in the right way. You have to explain the quote in a few sentences of your own. And then last but not least, you have to tie all of your writing, all of your explanation into the main point of your essay. IIET. It means introduce a quote, include a quote, explain a quote, and tie in your discussion of the quote into the larger point and the larger focus of the essay. Now, the best way to kind of show you how to do this is with an example. I wish I had you with. We'd do this all together were we in class. But let me just give you the example, and I'm going to ask you to share the paragraphs with each other so you can see how others have done it. In our discussion board coming up. I think that's a great way for you to see more examples. So let me see if I can do this pretty quickly. Or actually, no, I'm gonna stop this. So now I've introduced how to incorporate a quote. You're going to introduce it, include it, explain it, and tie it in. IIET. I'm going to come back in another video and we're going to do an example of incorporating an outside source into a college level essay with IIET.